What is going on YouTube? It is your boy MrBaboon back with a reaction video. This time we are reacting to the crazy assassinations of Fidel Castro. I think I said it right, who knows? Well, you know, a lot of people know. I don't know. Oh well. It is what it is if I mispronounce it, you know what I mean? But we are going to learn about the crazy assassinations or the assassination, something like that of him. So, I don't know much about this. We're gonna react to it. Should be interesting. Let's go ahead and get into the video. But before we do that, make sure you guys like, comment, subscribe, turn on post notifications if you guys are new. I will have the video link down below in the description and the channel link down below in the description as well. So, with that being said, let's go ahead and get into this. And I did smoke before the video, so there was that too. So, let's get into this nice little reaction. Oh yeah, my headset is breaking, so like there's a crack, so it's not good.
The former leader of Cuba.
I need I don't know what. Okay.
Sometimes he wore a big hat and had a beard. Other times he wore no head and had a mustache. But he always looked like Liam Neeson. But I digress. The important part is that he became Cuba's prime minister in 1959 and the United States hated this. And what does the government do if a young man forms an alliance with the UDSSR? That's right, they assassinate him, or at least try to do that. According to Castro's former head of security, Fabian Escalante, from 1960 to 2000, the CIA made 638 attempts on Castro's life. But since Castro died in 2016, it's pretty obvious that all those numerous attempts were in vain. Since we can't confirm all the 638 attempts, we will stick to the few that have been confirmed. Several of these were published in a 1975 report that investigated whether or not the CIA had ever abused its power. I know that's a pretty obvious investigation, but it provided us with information about several detailed attempts on Castro's life. And trust me, some of these attempts were extremely wacky, and you seriously have to question what substances the CIA agents were consuming to come up with some of this crazy bullshit. Number 1. The classical first attempt. The first attempt on Fidel Castro's life was in 1960, and this one was still pretty boring. They just paid a Cuban guy $10,000 to kill Castro, since he was about to meet with him. They never specified how the man was supposed to kill Castro, and the plan overall seemed half-baked. In the end, the man just never did it and ran off with the money, which is the only funny part about this.
Bro, what did they think was gonna happen? Like, I could have told you he was gonna run off with the money. Bro.
Assassination attempt. Imagine spending $10,000 to order an assassination on someone, and they're just like, sorry, I've never got around to it. Number 2, poisoned Cuban cigars. Their next attempt in 1961 was a little more inventive, but still pretty obvious considering that they tried to poison the Cuban leader with a Cuban cigar. You know, the only thing the country is known for. However, they did get a little more creative with their choice of poison, since they used botulinum toxin instead of classics like cyanide. Botulinum was so toxic that Castro would be done for the moment he put the cigar in his mouth. From the CIA reports, we know that this special cigar was handed off to an unknown third party in Cuba, and that's where the CIA lost track of the cigar. If you ask me, there are 2 possible outcomes to this mystery. Either the man simply decided to not kill Castro and threw the cigar away, or if he was a sadist, he could have given the cigar to another random Cuban who then made the mistake of smoking it. Number 3, the explosive cigar. Since we are still in Cuba, the CIA didn't give up on their cigar idea that easily. But they knew that they needed a new twist, so they loaded a case of cigars with small amounts of explosives. In 1966, a CIA agent was supposed to swap a normal cigar case with the explosive one during Castro's trip to the United Nations. However, at the last minute, the operation was cancelled for fear of political fallout. Maybe they realized that blowing up a politician during a trip to the United Nations doesn't look good in the newspaper. However, it isn't known if this plan really existed, or if the CIA made it up to cover up their more serious attempts on Castro's life.
I'm intrigued.
Either way,
was these guys smoking something? Like what? Were they just drinking and come up with these ideas? Like what?
The rumor about this assassination attempt was taken so seriously by Castro's security that they created the Cohiba cigar brand to ensure the safety of Castro's cigars. With all of their cigar plans failing, the CIA seemingly entered panic mode, and this is where it gets really wacky.
Oh, shit.
Number 4, the Mafia milkshake plan.
What?
For their next attempt, the CIA actually got into contact with the Mafia to place a hit on Fidel Castro. The Mafia-associated Santo Trafficante and Sam Giancana were both on the FBI's most wanted list at the time, but the CIA still hired them to assassinate Fidel Castro. And now you probably ask yourself what brutal and cunning plan these wanted criminals created, right? I shit you not. Of all possible ways to murder someone, they decided to poison a milkshake that Castro was then supposed to drink. A waiter they hired was supposed to poison the milkshake with a pill they gave to him. But in another hilarious failure, the waiter stored the pill in the freezer, where it got stuck in ice, and upon trying to get it loose, the pill broke and the poison spilled, rendering this attempt useless. I want to emphasize again, this is not the plot of a cheap crime television show. This actually happened and was a plan backed by the CIA. But this isn't where this whole mess ends, because their next ideas became even crazier. Number 5, the explosive seashell. At some point, the CIA came to the conclusion that taking advantage of Castro's hobbies might be a good way to assassinate him. Since Fidel Castro was a big fan of scuba diving, they came up with the idea to plant an explosive seashell in an area where Castro commonly went diving. In 1963, Desmond Fitzgerald, chief of the anti-Castro CIA task force, really...
Okay, who signed off on these ideas? This, like, no. Like, someone was definitely not, like, thinking... Like,
asked his assistant to determine whether an exotic seashell rigged to explode could be created. While the idea to take advantage of Castro's hobbies is smart, the idea of a giant exploding seashell is hilarious to me. And this wasn't their last plan taking advantage of Castro's favorite hobby. Number 6, the poisoned diving suit. A second plan involved having James Donovan, who was negotiating with Castro for the release of prisoners taken during the Bay of Pigs operation, present Castro with a contaminated diving suit. Donovan is maybe most famous for negotiating the spy trade that returned American U-2 pilot Francis Gary Powers. He was even portrayed by Tom Hanks in the 2015 Steven Spielberg movie Bridge of Spies. He was also successful in securing the release of thousands of Cuban prisoners after the Bay of Pigs. But even this man, teeming with professionalism, wasn't able to execute the CIA's crazy assassination plans. The Technical Services Division of the CIA did wind up buying a diving suit, dusting its insides with a fungus that caused the chronic skin disease Madura foot, and put tubercle bacilli, which causes tuberculosis, in the breathing apparatus. But the plan ultimately failed, since the suit never left the laboratory. Number 7, the love affair. At one point, the CIA tried to murder Fidel Castro by hiring Marita Lorenz. She was tasked with first seducing Castro and then slipping him botulism toxin pills. As soon as her plane reached Havana, however, Lorenz was having doubts about killing Castro. On top of her growing doubts about killing Castro, she had already ruined the plan anyway. Marita stored the toxic pills in a jar of cold cream, which obviously ruined them, so she decided to flush them down the toilet. Then Castro finally entered her hotel room, and in her words, the following things happened. He was very tired and wanted to sleep. He was chewing a cigar and he laid down on the bed and said, "Did you come here to kill me?" Just like that. I was standing at the edge of the bed. I said, "Yes, I wanted to see you." And he said, "That's good." Then he leaned over, pulled out his gun and handed it to me. I flipped the chamber out and hit it back. He didn't even flinch, and he said, "You can't kill me, nobody can kill me." And he kind of smiled and chewed on his cigar. I felt deflated. He was so sure of me. He just grabbed me. We made love. That was the hardest part. I wanted him to beg me to stay, but he got dressed and left. I just sat there by myself for a while. I left him a note. I told him that I would be back. So Fidel Castro identified his lover as a CIA agent who came to Havana to assassinate him, and instead of shooting her, he literally hands her his own gun to call her bluff. And if that wasn't enough already, he seduces and makes love to her as if nothing ever happened. Number 8. Character assassination through LSD-like drugs or debearding.
What?
I know this sounds completely ridiculous, but this shit really happened. And yes, before any smartass comments this, these technically weren't attempts to kill Castro so much as discredit him and undermine his rule. I don't care and still want to talk about this hilarious shit. According to the 1967 report of the CIA's Inspector General, an official in the Technical Services Division recalled discussing a scheme to spray Castro's broadcasting studio with a chemical which produced effects similar to LSD, but the scheme was rejected as the chemical was unreliable. They also experimented with dosing a box of cigars with a chemical producing temporary disorientation, which could lead to an embarrassing failed speech by Castro. There were also plans to dust Castro's shoes with thallium salts, a strong depilatory that would cause his beard to fall out. It was supposed to be delivered to Castro when he was traveling abroad and left his shoes outside his hotel room to be shined, but when Castro cancelled the trip, the attempt was abandoned. So we moved from poisoning him with a cigar to drugging the guy with a party drug and causing his beard to fall out, hoping that it would embarrass him. I'm seriously wondering if the CIA personally tested these LSD substances when they came up with this plan. Number 9, the poison pen. In the early 1960s, the CIA made contact with a senior Cuban official. He asked for, and apparently received, a cache of high-powered rifles with scopes, which he intended to use for an assassination. But the CIA also offered him a ballpoint pen, rigged with a hypodermic needle, so fine that the victim would not notice its insertion. Now, there are two popular stories why this plan failed. The first story is that the official apparently did not think much of the poison pen and complained that the CIA could surely come up with something more sophisticated than that. And the other story paints the Cuban official more like a coward than a professional killer, because some sources claim that the official was so afraid of accidentally stabbing himself with the pen that he simply threw it away. I personally think the first story is more realistic, but the second story would be downright hilarious and would fit in perfectly with all the failed assassinations featuring strange middlemen. And finally, number 10, just shoot the guy in the head. The last official assassination attempt on Castro was more straightforward and didn't need any crazy plans. The CIA gave a gun and a custom silencer to the same Cuban official who messed up the poison pen plan before, and he disappointed the CIA once again, since he ultimately cut contacts with the CIA and seemingly retired from the idea of killing Castro. In the end, Fidel Castro died of natural causes at the age of 90. This longevity also seems mocking considering all the desperate attempts to assassinate the guy. But there we have it. These were most of the public assassination attempts of Fidel Castro. Some were relatively normal, while other attempts were completely crazy. But that is it for today. I hope.
So, he lived to 90. Yeah, because he died in, 2016, 17, right? I think. But I do believe that's what he said, 16, I think. So they did, did they just not try hard enough? I don't know. I don't know, what to say. Let me know what you guys' thoughts are down below in the comments. Let me know down below. Like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. I'll see you guys in the next one. Positivity is key. Motivation is key. Happiness is key. I'll see you guys in the next one. You guys watch out for each other. Stay safe. I'll see you guys in the next one.